He'd been birched, he'd been flogged, he'd been certified insane, he'd been confined in solitary and confinement and that kind of thing. So he'd had an awful life, really. And then when he got to Rampton, he escaped, and he went into a house and he terrorized the people in the house with an axe. And of course some journalists immediately picked that up, and he was identified from thenceforth as the Mad Axeman.
Mitchell was recaptured and sent to Broadmoor Secure Hospital. But 18 months later, in July 1958, he was out again, using the same trick. He had fashioned a key from one of his bed springs. This was Mitchell's 5th escape. His aim was to be transferred back to a normal prison. Typically, it was thanks to Mitchell himself he was caught. He met 2 down-and-outs in Bournemouth. After boasting he was the Mad Axeman, he told them he was heading home on the next coach to London. They told the police, and the bus was stopped. He had been free for just 36 hours.
On information, the coach was stopped at Hartley Row, and Mitchell was taken off it. The public had behaved very well, and by their helpful cooperation and keenness, it's helped our task considerably. We've had the aid of the soldiers, the Navy with a helicopter, and our own police, our own dogs, and dogs from neighbouring county, and our colleagues from neighbouring counties. It's been a good team effort.
Mitchell relished his short time in the limelight, but didn't realise how much of a monster he had become in the public eye.
There are a crowd of women and children here, and policemen and warders watching him being brought back. It was at about 4:45 that we first got an idea that Mitchell had been captured, and since then he's been in Hartley Whitney police station. Now these people looking vastly relieved and smiling and quite cheerful as the van carrying Frank Mitchell comes in.
Mitchell's brief spell of freedom got him into the worst trouble he'd ever known. During a break-in to get clothes and money, he held a couple hostage and slightly injured the husband in a scuffle. His meagre haul was a car he couldn't drive, 10 and 9pence in change, and some clothes. The hue and cry had made him famous, and now the law was going to make an example of him. Mitchell pleaded guilty to robbery with violence. On conviction, he got an extraordinary sentence, life imprisonment. But not everyone saw a monster there, not even the woman he robbed.
My advice to people is to treat him kindly and give him what he wants. If he wants a car, let him have it, or money or anything, just to get him. He won't hurt anyone if they'll only do that.
Be nice to him,
be
and
nice,
he won't hurt.
Yes, be nice to him, and I don't think they'll come to any harm.
The apparent injustice of Mitchell's punishment brought out the Krays' charitable instincts. Mitchell's prison file, which was secret until it was released for this program, contains telegrams from the Krays requesting more and more visits. They visited Mitchell whatever prison he was in, and Mitchell wrote to them frequently. By 1966, when Mitchell had been in Dartmoor for 4 years, the Krays and their henchmen had become Mitchell's only visitors.
Right from the beginning, my dad told Frank to stay away from the Krays, because he'd end up in big trouble. Well, he just took no notice. They was his mates, and he just hung around with them.
Mitchell wrote scores of letters to the Kray family home in Valence Road, Bethnal Green. We have obtained the ones which were stopped by the prison authorities because they showed Mitchell's growing frustration at having served 8 years of his life sentence with still no prospect of a release date.
I've tried to avoid trouble. I act a mug. But if they're going to keep pushing me, I've got to play my hand the other way. Can't take anymore. Well, I've got so I don't worry what happens to me anymore. What chance have I got of getting out if they won't give me a chance to do my time like the other lads?
Mitchell's family was not aware of the depth of his growing frustration, but they did know and worry about the influence the Krays had over him.
One Christmas, they knocked at the door and threw some money up the passage and said it was a Christmas present from Frankie.
The Mitchell family lived in Old Ford Road. The Cray visit was not welcome. Mitchell's father, Sam, rushed into the street throwing the bundle of notes after the twins. He did not want his son, much less his family, tainted by association.
We was just an ordinary family. I mean, our family wasn't gangsters because Frankie was in trouble. None of us was in any trouble, and because of Frankie, people portrayed us as trouble.
Do you think the Krays set out to genuinely help Frank?
No, because Frankie was big. They thought that, well, they could use him or something for their own purpose.
As a criminal?
Yeah.
In part 2, eyewitnesses tell of the Krays' plot to spring Frank Mitchell from Dartmoor and cover themselves in glory. But the firm's good deed ends in murder. Dartmoor's punishment block is the most forbidding part of this forbidding place. But in all Mitchell's 4 years at the prison, he never once ended up in the punishment cells. Just as the Krays were adopting Frank Mitchell as a good cause, he was tiring of his role as scourge of the system. The Dartmoor files show Mitchell, now 37, in danger of becoming a model prisoner. In October 1966, senior staff at Dartmoor carried out the review that followed a prisoner completing 8 years of a life sentence. The Deputy Governor noted,
"He must be given something to aim at, and there is only one target which can be set, a date of release. If he is not fit for a date to be named now, he never will be."
The Governor wrote,
"I have recommended before that he should be given a date for release, no matter how far ahead, and I recommend it again now."
The Governor, Dennis Malone, and other senior staff at the prison clearly sympathised with Mitchell's plight. Mitchell petitioned the Home Office for a date of release many times without success. He wrote that he was choked at serving a life sentence even though he had not killed anybody, and complained of watching murderers being released ahead of him and feeling like a dead man. As petition after petition failed, the Governor decided to reward Mitchell with the highest privilege a Dartmoor prisoner could earn, a place on the so-called Honour Party, which worked on the moor, outside the prison.
The message was that we trust you. You had to give your word that you weren't going to escape. That's why it was called the Honour Party. And was a stepping stone and a signpost that somewhere in the future there was possible release.
The Honour Party worked at a place called Bagator, about 12 miles from the prison. It had places for just 6 of Dartmoor's 600 prisoners, based at this lonely hut. Their job was to repair fences, to keep livestock off the nearby army firing ranges. They cooked their own meals and were trusted to work unsupervised for long periods. When severe weather closed in, they sheltered there, and Mitchell revealed his naivety about the world outside prison.
He did have a curiosity about family life, how to treat children and, how does somebody spend their life with one other person, marriage, and what does that mean?
There were 2 crucial things about Frank Mitchell the authorities did not know. First, during one of his rare spells out of jail, he had fathered a child, which he died without seeing. Secondly, he was increasingly falling under the influence of the Krays. Members of the firm would hide money for him on the moor. As police investigating his murder discovered, Mitchell was leading a life like no other Dartmoor prisoner.
Although he cooperated with the officers in charge of the party, he also went off to public houses. He, at one stage, took a taxi from one of the pubs and went into Tavistock to buy budgerigar.
I saw him a fortnight ago yesterday at the Elephant's Nest.
That's a local pub, is it?
That's right, yes. I had a telephone message to take him to Exeter. I went up to the pub. He said he didn't really want to go to Exeter. He just wanted to go into Oakhampton to buy a budgie.
Well,